Hi guys, welcome back to the Point Church Podcast. I'm your host, Melanie. I'm the Student Point Director here at the Chapel Hill campus. And today I'm interviewing someone who's usually behind the camera, Colin Wells.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Melanie. I'm so excited to be here and just to share a little bit about my story and a little bit about what I do and just have an overall good, fun time with everybody.
I'm so excited. I mean, I feel like you're doing everything, and I know that I roast you a bunch that you only mess with the PowerPoint at Chapel Hill and that's all you do, but I would love to actually know what your job description is.
Yeah. So do you just want to jump right in?
Yes, right into it.
Yeah, so my role is ever-changing, and that's always a fun thing. But my official role at the church, I have the privilege of working full-time for Point Church. I am our creative director,
Nice.
and I work on our mission support staff, and so most people would know that we're a family of churches. We're a multi-site church, and so I work on the team that helps provide resources for all of our different campuses. And again, my specific role is in the creative realm.
Nice. Impressive. So you work with all of the churches. What's that like, balancing coming here but also working with everybody?
Yeah, well, it can be a challenge, but it's a lot of fun as well. And it's kind of cool just because I'm able to come to church on Sundays just because it's my church. It's my pastor. It's the people that I love. And when I'm here on Sundays, I'm actually not here in an official work capacity. I'm just here as if I was attending church just like you or someone else who may or may not be employed by the church. And so, but it's definitely one of the things I love about our church is just all the things that we're able to do, and I'm always super thankful because I think I'm in a unique position that I get to see a lot of it. Now with that, it comes a lot of stress because there's always a lot of things to do and help make sure it happens because we're a church that does a lot of things from launching new campuses and working on our care pantries and working on new projects. I mean, I think we're recording this on, January 25th or 6th or something like that. Like, I'm planning Easter right now and working on that with our teams and thinking ahead all the time to help make sure those things are happening. And so it's definitely a balance, but like I said, it's a lot of fun, and it's just cool to be able to consistently see God move and always be able to feel rewarded for what we're doing and able to do.
That's so awesome. I kind of want to go back. You went to Carolina.
I did go to Carolina.
I know
Go
probably
Heels.
some of the church members might not like it. Everyone's NC State fans for some reason. It's weird. We're right down the road from Chapel Hill.
Oh, yeah. No, it's amazing. Yes, I did go to Carolina, and I'll speak a lot more about that in a second. But it is funny. Point Church was founded 10 years ago, pretty much right on NC State's campus.
Really?
And so Chris Hagen's our lead pastor, Matthew Bradham, one of our directional elders and pastors, and a lot of people that were on the launch team all went to State. And so especially when I first started at the church professionally, I was definitely the outlier that coming from working at Carolina to work with a bunch of people that went to State. But fortunately, State makes it quite easy because Carolina always wins, and State
100%.
fans can never really say anything. But no, yes, I did go to Carolina. I born in Texas, grew up in Roxborough, North Carolina, a rural town about 45 minutes north of here, and then went to school at UNC, studied communications, and it's kind of funny. A lot of people, it's very much a cliche to talk about college being your formative years, or they talk about it being the time where you learn so much, but especially like the further I get away from college, I'm 26 now, the further I get away from college, the more I can like look back and see just how much it formed me, and even specifically like my time at UNC and the opportunities I had at UNC, and just really cool to, in hindsight, look back and really feel like God's like hand was on it all, even when I didn't know it, even when I might have been following him less, even when I like just had no idea. But now in hindsight, I can be like, wow, those are all the, God, you put all the dominoes in place to like bring me to where I am today.
That's so cool. I love kind of looking back of just like, man, that sucky moment that happened, but then it's just like, I saw where you're working. I saw what you were doing, God.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's very important to reflect. So you also were a part of the ministry that I'm currently a part of, CCF, Campus Christian Fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what you did with them while you were at Carolina?
Well, like I said, just the funny way that God works. CCF, it was the church or the campus ministry that the church I was a part of growing up sponsored. So of course, when I got on UNC's campus, I was like, I guess I'll just do CCF. Like, didn't even really consider doing other ones. And there's plenty of other great campus ministries out there. But like, I went to CCF. I was like, oh, great, cool, like it. I'll stick with it. And it was just definitely just the campus ministry that I was a part of my 4 years. And I think I definitely, different levels of involvement from, being very involved to, maybe being less involved for a year or two to kind of going back into my senior year and becoming more and more involved. And so we can get into this if you want, but my first year out of college, I worked for CCF and doing ministry, and that's a whole additional story in itself because I went to Carolina. I didn't plan to do ministry. I didn't think I was going to do ministry, and I pretty much didn't do ministry until I did ministry. And so CCF was a large part of that. And just I studied communications. Was super active in like the athletics at Carolina and marching band and everything, and studying communications, and like just really planned to graduate and get a job working for a sports team or an organization, working in their like communications or graphics or design departments. And that was just my goal. And then in the fall of my senior year, Dean Owens, the campus minister at CCF, offered me to consider interning for CCF, and it was completely out of left field in my opinion. And I just like I gave him the good Christian answer. I was like, I don't know, I'll pray about it. And I did pray about it, and of course God does what he does when you pray, and began to change things. And it was just really cool because that also helped solidify my faith a lot, because I just had a lot of excuses, like why, like I went to Carolina, why would I go into ministry? If I wanted to do ministry, I would have gone to Bible college. Or if I like part of that role was support raising. I was like, I can't support raise and live in Chapel Hill. It's the most expensive city around. There's no way I can do that. Or just living situation or other excuses. And I just made a lot of excuses and just saw God begin to take each one and just crush it like one by one.
Wow.
To the point that literally it's just like one of those, okay, fine, God, I'll do this for a year. Clearly you're trying to get me to do ministry and you're doing something. I was like, I'll do it for a year and then we'll see. And then now here I am like 4 or 5 years later, still working in ministry. And so did campus ministry for the year, had a lot of amazing opportunities, really building relationships, discipling students, and just continuing to grow myself. It was almost an extension of college for me, and just learning and growing and maturing a lot. And then at the end of that first year, I'd begun doing a little bit of work with Point Church. Just again, I still had an interest in media and design, so I was working just a few hours a month with them, and I had the opportunity to work full-time for the church. And at the end of my first year out of college, I decided to switch to doing what I do with Point Church, working in ministry and design and part of our creative team. And just over the last few years, my role has continued to develop, and it's been really cool to just, as our church has grown, a lot of my opportunities have also grown, and just being able to see God work through those and still be excited about what's to come.
Yeah, and what was that transition like, going from a campus ministry to working full-time for a church? I mean, like, it's definitely two different worlds, I feel. But It
is. Sometimes I feel like I have a unique understanding of some of those sort of things, just whether it's people I know that work in campus ministry, people in my life group that work in campus ministry, my girlfriend works in campus ministry, and a lot of like I said, our church was almost founded it was a church, but like really relating around college campuses and stuff like that. And so I feel like I have a unique understanding of the work that goes into that and the differences. And a lot of it was just even me learning what I really felt like my giftings were, my spiritual giftings. And that's something I definitely would really challenge and encourage other people, is to find those sort of things. And I had an amazing time doing campus ministry, and which is a lot more one-on-one discipleship, relationship building. And like I said, I enjoyed it, but I didn't really feel like that's where I thrived the most. I feel like I thrived much more in a lot of the opportunities I had to lead a creative team, to be able to work in those regards, to help create amazing videos and things like that, and lead people that create amazing videos. And my giftings and just kind of project management and having enough creativity in me really felt like, man, I can thrive in here. Now, again, that's nothing against campus ministry. There's plenty of people that thrive in campus ministry would never want to work in the situation I do. But a lot of it was me coming to that conclusion and starting to understand, no, it's not like one's better than the other. It's not like, I graduated from campus ministry to work for a church. It was kind of helping continue to see what God was doing in my life and how he wanted to use me. And just, again, after a lot of prayer, coming to the conclusion that this is where he wanted me.
Nice. I think you mentioned earlier, if I'm not mistaken, about your faith. Was that, did CCF impact that in a way? Or like
None.
when you came to Carolina?
No, I'm kidding.
No, not at all. CCF did nothing.
No.
Like,
Yeah. So I've had I guess I'll say a normal faith. I mean,
normal, describe
well,
normal.
yeah. That's
I
what
was about to say.
I grew up in a Christian household. I grew up going to Christian church and everything, and it was a large part of my life growing up, and definitely was a big part of me being who I am today and laying a lot of those foundations and things like that. I think I learned different things in college. I learned different things being part of campus ministry. I started to learn a little bit more about my personal relationship with Jesus as opposed to just learning the stories of the Bible, just learning what it looks like to be the church and things like that. Like, started to learn, like, what does it mean for me and Jesus to have a relationship? And I think that's a lot of what I learned throughout campus ministry and throughout my time in college. And like I said, from varying levels, probably like from, freshman year being decently involved, someone new to it, to like sophomore year, like maybe coming once a month or 3 months to, junior year starting to build back up, and then senior year being pretty involved again. A lot of that was just starting to understand what it means to have an actual relationship with Jesus. And that's like no fault on my past church experience. It's just I learned different things growing up in the church that I learned in CCF, and so they both kind of complemented each other well to help me be where I am today.
Let me see how I word this question. What is something that really hindered your faith that you had to overcome?
The first thing that comes to mind is being okay with not knowing the answer. I think I struggled a lot with just not knowing the answers, not being able to answer some of the hard questions, and then the frustration of not feeling like there was an answer to the hard questions. And I never got to a place that caused me to not have a faith, but it was definitely something like that I got frustrated with a lot. And and then sometimes like other people just seem to get it more and getting frustrated. And so I think that was a big point of growth for me kind of at the beginning of my time being a part of a campus ministry was being, I guess it's one part about college that they talk about, like people, you talk about the just big questions of life and things. And, for plenty of people that might not revolve around church or theology, but, for me it did enough. And having those questions and being able to, in a safe place, have those questions and wrestle. And what's great about most people that work in campus ministry, most people like Dean Owens, again, the campus minister there, is able to have those questions and not feel like it's bad to, ask them possible questions of like, well, why does God cause, or why does bad things happen to good people? Why does God allow that? And you can extrapolate that out to like major things, but like you're able to have those conversations where I think I grew up, again, not like I didn't feel like I could have them, but I don't know, just didn't ask them. And so
this might be a weird question, but what's one of your favorite discussions about Christianity? Like, I know that some people are just like, oh, predestination, like that kind of thing. Like, what's something that like really like you're passionate about, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's kind of funny you ask that because, to be perfectly candid and honest, I think that's an area that I am trying to grow in. And sometimes I feel like I'm not passionate enough about individual topics, that I'm too just casual, go with the flow, trusting of things and not worrying about, figuring things out for myself. I think one thing that's been fascinating to me recently has been just church history, learning more about how we came to where we are today with as far as like denominations and things like that. And learning about that, I think has been something I've been trying to do more of recently. And that helps me just understand, as we're, a fairly non-denominational church and have people different backgrounds, as I'm creating content, helping our teams create testimonies that impact, I don't know if that's someone who grew up Catholic in the audience. I don't know if that's someone who grew up a devout Christian. I don't know if that's someone who's agnostic, like having a better understanding of some of those differences and just both culturally and theologically is something that I've been interested in a lot more lately.
I really like that. That was a good answer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Melanie refused to give me the questions ahead of time.
I did. Anyways, I did not give you the. Anyways, whew. So you're a very busy individual. Obviously, talking to you, like exhausted just hearing about your workday. So how do you make time for God? Like, where does God fit into all of that of making sure that you're okay, especially in such a busy season? Like, if you're very text guy, like right now we're all online basically.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we're doing a lot more stuff involving that. So how do you make sure that you're okay during the season?
That's a great question. And again, I think I don't always do the best job of that. And that's an area that I'm growing and learning. I think I'm going to answer that. I'm going to go back and relate to something else.
Okay.
I think a big part of it for me personally is surrounding myself with people that can help hold me accountable to those sort of things, and not to be, plug it, but like my core group is like a group of a couple guys that like I can always count on, and has become a pillar of my week to be able to always go back to. And like, even when I am so busy that I feel like I'm not, giving God enough time, and they're able to help kind of talk some sense into me about it, or ask me questions, ask me how I'm doing, how my faith is doing, how my prayer life is doing, how my scripture life is doing. And like you kind of said, it's definitely been a hard year. It's been a hard year for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, but definitely professionally, it's been, a lot of industries have had to learn how to do things differently, and the church is one of those. And so being a part of it and being one of the people responsible. And I think one of the things I'd like to connect it to, if that's okay, is a big area that I've learned in working for the church. I mean, I've been full-time employed professionally for 4 or 5 years now, working for a church, is that it's funny because a lot of people think, it would be way different than a normal job. And there's definitely a lot of things that are great about it, but there's a lot of areas that like it's a normal job. I work with people. I get frustrated with people. People get frustrated with me. We're trying to accomplish things like that. And so even like, I just relate that to me being exhausted and things like that. Like, it's no different than someone else who works, for a marketing firm. Like it's not that different. I just have the privilege of obviously doing it for something that I care about, that I'm passionate about, and obviously care about people learning and knowing Jesus. And so that's a big part of it for me, is just trying to, recognize that, and even that when I'm having conversations with other people, that, just because I work for a church doesn't mean it's that much different than someone else. And so, like I said, ultimately we're all on the same team and we all love each other, I think, more than the average staff, but there's definitely like its own set of challenges and its own set of exhaustions and its own set of things like that. It's not just sunshine and daisies all the time because I work for a church.
Yeah. So for someone who's experiencing burnout, especially in ministry, like, not saying like they're doing your kind of work, but like even serving every Sunday, or, having these obligations and stuff, how would you encourage them? I mean, like, you talked a little bit about your core group, but like, what are other ways to overcome that burnout? Because I know that sometimes we can even have that with our own spirituality, of like being burned out of just reading scripture over and over, or like doing the same thing. So
yeah, I don't mean to oversimplify it, and I know it's easier said than done, but the short answer I would just say is just stop. Like, and that's hard. That's a very hard thing.
I know. Do you know who you're talking to, Colin? Stop.
But like,
excuse me.
And I'm not the best at it either. But one thing I have learned, and I had a coworker a couple of years ago, who, this is in like in a positive way, but she would like tell me, like, when we're stressing about getting something done, a huge day that, Easter or something like that, or some of that exhaustion's building up, she would just look at me and she's like, Colin, you're not that important. And like, but that's like a gut check reality to realize, and to not put so much. Our God is a big God. Our God is in control, and our God is not. We're so lucky that He's invited us to be a part of the process, but He also can work without us. And so don't feel like, man, if I'm not there on Sunday, it's not going to happen. No, the church is still going to happen. The church has been alive for 2,000 years. Like, it's going to go on without you. And, and that would allow times for other people to grow, other people to step in and do those sorts of things. And, like I said, I really recognize the significance of making that decision, but it does just take no, I'm not going to be there for 2 weeks. No, I am taking a week off. No, I cannot do that event. And like I said, I mean, there's obviously, it can be more complicated. I don't want to oversimplify it, but recognizing you're not that important to it all in the best way possible.
You're not that important in the best way possible.
I say you're not that important in a way that adores God's sovereignty.
Yeah, I like that. You got to add that at the end of it. Who is the most influential person to you here at the Point Church?
Oh, that's a loaded question. And a lot of people I know watch this. I can't just pick one.
Someone who...
I think you are, Melanie. I've learned a lot.
Okay, a real answer. Like either in your faith, as a man, it could be of anything.
Stephen Workman.
Stephen Workman?
No, I'm kidding. No,
Stephen, get out of here.
It's that's a hard question because, I mean, obviously, I really love our leadership. I love Chris Hankins. I love our executive pastor, technically my boss, Jeremy Hyde. Like, I love the people that I've been able to work with, and it's definitely just, I love, like, Matthew and the theological questions that I've been able to have with him, and I've loved Chris Workman and being able to get to know him as he's become a part of our church, because it's kind of funny, like, in a weird way, I'm one of the old souls of our staff. Like, a lot of our people have come since I've been around. Since I've been around for 4 or 5 years. Like, you know, Point Church Chapel Hill's only been like 4 years or 3 years old. Like, Chris was hired after me. Other people were hired after me. And so, like, again, I call Point Church Chapel Hill my home. I love Chris Workman. I mean, I had an issue just the other night, and he was the person I called at 10 o'clock to, like, have a conversation and to pray about something. But professionally, like, from a staff standpoint, I don't know. I don't want to answer just one, and it's not a way I'm afraid to offend them. But, like, our staff as a whole has helped me grow in a lot of ways. It's given me a place to continue to grow theologically. It's given me a place to continue to grow as a leader. It's given me a place to just continue to have opportunities. I mean, I've had opportunities that I don't deserve. I've had opportunities that are, I mean, I believe God had a hand in it, but are, you know, humanistically circumstantial, like, you know, stepping into a role because of somebody leaving, stepping into a role because of, you know, again, we're a growing church, and, like, just being in the right place at the right time of things. And so I'm thankful for all the opportunities that I've had and for people to trust in me and see God working. And like I said, just trusting me to be a part of it. And so I could answer 3 different people in 3 different ways, but I don't have a single one, which I think is really cool. It's what I love about our staff. And it's not like I just love one person. I'm here just because of one person. I'm here because, like, I know a lot of the people that help make this happen very well. And I have so much trust and knowledge and that they're men of God, that they're people of God, and that they are doing things out of a place of work, being in tune with the Holy Spirit. They're not doing things out of being in tune with, you know, finances or I don't, you name it. But, like, being able to have personal relationship with a lot of the leadership of our church gives me just so much confidence in the direction and what God is doing.
Then I'll switch up the question. If there's one thing that the Point Church does well, what is it?
Points people to Jesus. No, I think we do a great job of meeting people where they're at when they walk in the door. I think people from a very wide gambit of life could walk into our doors and feel comfortable. And I don't think there's anything theologically wrong about churches that might have a little bit more of a niche, you know, whether it be a generational niche, whether it be a ethnic niche, whether it be a socioeconomic niche. But, like, I think we're a very diverse, and there's areas that we want to improve. We're continuing to pursue racial diversity better, especially a lot of things going on in the world, and don't want to pretend like we've solved those problems. But, like, I think most anybody can walk into our doors. They can tune into one of our online churches and just kind of feel at home.
I like that. So you talk a lot about your work and your job and what you do for the church. Could you really describe that? What does a regular day look like for you working for the Point Church?
Yeah, well, there's never a regular day. But in general, like, it's so fun because we have such a unique church, and our role is what, again, we call our mission support staff. They're our staff that supports the mission, that supports all of our campuses. And so it's ultimately our job just to get our campuses whatever resources they need to be able to function well. And so, like I said, my specific part in that's in the creative realm. And so what that is responsible for ultimately is worship, tech, media, and communications. And so oversee those those staff members across those teams. And so in a lot of ways, my role is just to help, it's twofold. One thing I say is my role is to help keep all the ships together. It's like a fleet of ships, and you're trying to make sure none of them's veering way off, going in one direction.
Yeah.
So helping keep our ships together, and really just helping give the different teams I'm responsible for even the resources they need to be successful. Or media director Ben, like, he's an incredible editor. He's the man behind the scenes that shoots and edits every testimony video you see, every rundown you see, every bit of content, like helping him get what he needs, whether it's scheduling people, whether it's helping, like, I sit in on teaching teams, so I am able to help relate the content we create, making sure it lands in the same place the teaching's landing. Like, that's an example of one of the things that, I do. Or helping our awesome worship director, mission support worship director, Andrew. He works with all of our campus worship directors to help make sure they have what they need, to help also invest in their faith and make sure they're doing. I mean, ministry can also be very lonely, especially in churches like that don't have a lot of staff, that don't have a lot of people that do what they do. And so helping Andrew have what he needs to, whether it's just, super logistical things, like he has a card to buy a microphone that he needs, to helping, connect the dots or connect people, that might be not responding or something, or whatever it may be. Or again, I work very closely with some of our lead staff, Jeremy and Chris and Matthew, and just sitting in on some of their meetings. And so, one of the ideas, I believe when the podcast comes out, this will probably have already happened. It will definitely be like public, but like, we're creating these boxes called cross boxes for families to take home and go through the 40 days leading up to Easter, and have be able to fast and repent, and just some resources to do that we're super excited about. Be able to get it in the hands of, I think we're making like 750 of them to go to all the people that are watching online, watching at home, doing things like that. So sitting in on those meetings, and then a lot of times it's my responsibility to take that idea and make it a reality. And so I'll take what I get from those meetings and then work with the incredible people that I work with to make all those different parts of that happen. And that's the other thing, just there's so much that goes into making some of the things happen that people don't just know. It's no fault on them. And, that's sometimes the goal. We want people to just be able to walk in and just focus on the worship experience. We don't want people to be so caught up in how did that video get made, or, oh my gosh, that video is so bad, like, I'm distracted from worship, or, the same for a print material or things like that. Like, we just want to help create content that best facilitates people encountering Jesus. And so that can look a lot of different ways. I mean, part of it is, we're consistently launching new campuses. So it's, going to those facilities, going on, making sure they're tech and everything, working with other contractors that are installing our tech equipment in our facilities, making sure those are going well, holding those people accountable, and just working in, like, whatever it may look like. Sometimes it's working closely with family ministry, and because that's the thing about creative, like, it very much spans a lot of different ministries. Sometimes we're creating resources for a student point retreat or a student point bowling event, creating the flyers that you hand out, the flyers that you post on social media, that someone ultimately fills out a request form, and then our media team that I'm, again, oversee with Ben and some other people, like, they're responsible for creating that. And so working with that, making sure that's at a place that we're happy with, and then delivering it. So that way you have an amazing flyer in your hand that you're able to hand out to all of our students and have them hand out to all their friends. But like, you didn't have to put any work into designing that flyer. You didn't have to put any work into printing that flyer. You didn't have to do any work in worrying about it. That we're able to do that so that we can free up your time to just do ministry, to do relational ministry. So that's a long way to say it always looks different, but that maybe sums up a few of the areas that I do. And like I said, it's exciting. I mean, I don't want people to know all the things that we do in a way of like, oh, look at like all this work that goes on. But I think it's cool because one of my favorite things about our church is that we're a part of something bigger than ourselves. And it's sometimes easy to not realize that. It's sometimes easy just to go to Point Church Chapel Hill and see the 50 people here over and over again. Sometimes it's easy to go to Point Church Holly Springs and see those 150 people. It's easy to just watch Point Church online and just see those same 50 to 100 people every week. But like when you put it together, us being 12 campuses reaching, 1,500, 2,000 people on a Sunday, and just being able to see all the people that are so passionate about this to help make it happen and do what it takes. And so it's one of the things that gives me energy and excites me.
That's awesome. One last question for you, Colin.
Okay, I'm ready.
Whole idea of this podcast. What's the point? What does the Point Church mean to you?
I'll give two answers. For me, just very much Colin Wells is opportunity. Like, if you would have asked me 5 years ago if this is where I'd be or what I'd be doing, like, absolutely not. I had no intention whatsoever. Even, like, again, going into ministry was, like, I'll give this a shot for a year, but just continue to have people invest in me, continue to have people trust me, continue to have people give me opportunities beyond what I think I deserved has just been really cool for me to grow, and me to grow in my faith. Like, I think it's helped me to be involved. And, we had some conversation earlier about investing in my own faith, but, even when I'm not doing as good of a job of reading the Bible on my own, like, I am still reading the Bible as part of what I do for work, and that's not a replacement, but, like, that also does keep me more invested than if I work for a purely secular job. And so it's helped my faith grow. It's helped me be a part of things and be able to just see God move. I say, what's the point? Bigger picture, like us as a church, is that just seeing lives changed. Like I said earlier, I think I'm spoiled just being in a unique position to be able to really see lives changed all across our church. Just this morning, our East African pastor shared his testimony, and just mind-blowing. Samuel Rashumbo, he's an incredible gentleman that moved here from, I believe, Congo, and developed a church. I mean, a lot of things happening in between, but developed a church here in Durham that reaches East African refugees and immigrants that speak Kinyarwanda, the primary or one of the primary languages of East Africa. And just like hearing things like that, just be like, okay, God, that was you, like over and over again. And hearing stories of life change, like you've even had in previous podcasts, like, okay, God, like I see you, like stop showing off almost, but like that's what it is. That's what it's about. That's what seeing the life change that God brings, and just to see the glory that only He can bring. And so just trying to help as many other people see that as possible.
Amen. It was an honor and an amazing opportunity to have you in front of the camera rather than behind it.
I'll make you do. I'll be in front of the camera one more time when I interview you.
Oh,
you heard it here first. Thank y'all so much for joining us for this episode of What's the Point? Really glad to be here. Glad to. It's an honor for me to be a part of it each and every week, even though it's been behind the scenes. An honor to work with Melanie. Just to give her a huge thanks for all the work that she puts into it. But yes, thank y'all for joining us. Remember, you can tune in every other week at livech.pointchurch.com at 7 o'clock. It's a great opportunity to just tune in live. Melanie's on there, Chris Workman's on there, and just able to even answer more questions as you go and be able to just kind of build some more of that community. And if you're not able to tune in, then just anywhere that you go to your podcast, whether it's Spotify, whether it's iTunes, and whatever podcast platform you use, it's there and it's available. What's the Point? So thanks again for joining us. It's been an honor, Melanie, and can't wait to see what God continues to do through you and this podcast.
Thank you. Have a good night.